Good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining us. You'll see that I'm not in my normal setting this morning. I had some changes in some family things, and I had to leave town. So I am recording or broadcasting from Logan, which is our main site, but I have family up that way. So that's where I am today. So I apologize, I'm not on my main site. So it's gonna be a little bit different. We are live on all of our social media platforms like normal, but I don't have my multiple screens, so I can't see the chats and things like that. So as questions come up, please feel free to put those into the chat in the comments, and then I will do a Q&A after, and we can go ahead and address those. So if I miss a question or something like that as it goes through, just because I don't have the multiple screens, we'll go ahead and do a Q&A at the very end and be able to go through all of those. So I appreciate everybody joining us today, and we'll go ahead and get started now. Today's webinar is on improving your resume with practical strategies. This is a fun webinar because we're able to do a little bit more hands-on. You will need a paper and a pen for today's webinar, so if you don't have one, grab one real quick. We're going to do some hands-on stuff. So I'd like to thank our co-hosts today. First, the ROI, or Rural Online Initiative. We appreciate their help in putting these webinars on, and they've been incredible to work with. We also like to thank Grow with Google and their partnership here at the Spark Center, and to be able to share this information with everybody as we go throughout. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Our agenda today is we're going to observe various resumes, and we're going to talk about the pros and cons of those resumes. We're going to learn 4 strategies to improve your resume. And then last but not least, we're going to create a checklist of those resume strategies so that you can go and utilize those within improving your resumes as you move forward. Okay, so question: how much time on average do you think an employer spends looking at each resume? So when you think about how many resume comes in per job and how much time is available, do you think that was like 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Do you think it's 30 seconds? What do you think that's going to be? Go ahead and put your answers in the chat in the comments so that we can kind of see what it looks like and can compare to what the actual number is. I'll give you about 10 seconds to put those in before we go ahead and move on. Very cool. So the true number is 6 to 10 seconds. So we have 6 to 10 seconds to grab the attention of that HR director, the hiring manager, whoever that might be. We have 6 to 10 seconds to gather their attention. So ultimately, let's say that they're hiring for a position and they go to lunch and they have 45 minutes. They're going to look at resumes during lunch, and they have 100 resumes. That's going to be about right as they're going to go through. So as we're going to go through, we're going to do some hands-on, like I told you, and you're going to want a paper and a pen, and we're going to look at 6 different resumes for a specific position. We're going to be in that HR role today, and I want you to think or write down one word that describes the resume that you're looking at, and I want you to write yes, so you can spend more time on it later, or no, so we can set it aside and move on. But we're going to essentially be the HR people to hire for a specific position. And this is the position that we're going to hire for. We're looking to hire for a sales representative. We're looking for a high performer to join our sales team. We want a successful candidate that will be responsible, will motivate sales, be a motivated sales associate with proven experience. Okay, this person needs to be able to manage the entire sales cycle. And in our business or in our company, that is, they're going to identify the sales needs. They're going to locate and expand new markets. They're going to designing and delivering sales presentations. They're going to have that graphic design portion, as well as presiding or presenting over negotiating negotiating with new vendors or new clients, whatever that's going to look like. Okay, they're going to build and maintain expertise over a range of our company products and services. They're going to meet or exceed the personal and departmental sales goals. And then you'll need to exceed customer service goals and have an entrepreneurial world view, as well as some business acumen, because you'll be working with some businesses, and then professional sales philosophy. So these are the things that we're going to be looking for. This is our ad for our job. So let's go ahead and get started. This is our first resume. Go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, so on average, that's the amount of time an HR person would look at a resume before they moved on. So with that amount of time, let's look at some strengths on that resume. So first off, it has some clear headings. Okay, it talks about, separates things out, has some clear headings, and that's important because when we look at a resume, you're looking at several resumes, and you don't have that clear separation. You can miss things very easily, but also your eyes will get tired if you are really straining to find those keywords that you're looking for. Okay. The other thing is this one has a lot of white space or margin. Again, easy on the eyes, able to pull the information that we're looking for. Some opportunities on this particular resume is going to be build out a relevant summary. They very specifically stated the skills that they have for what we're looking for. The basic, they took and they read that job description and they listed the items that they thought were relevant for that job. However, it wasn't relevant for what we were looking for, whether this is a stock resume or it just didn't meet the needs. They didn't know how to read a resume or a job posting to build out that relevant summary. Okay. And then the other thing kind of goes along that same line. They didn't tailor the experiences to the position. We listed very specific items that we were looking for. And by what they listed, there's no matching to what we're looking for our job description. Okay. Here's our next resume. Okay, so some strengths on this resume are the skills and accomplishments. They are really great in listing out the skills and accomplishments that they have so that we know exactly where we need to look to see if they've got exactly what we need as far as any certificates or skills in order to complete the job. It's really great. Some opportunities this resume has is a description of responsibilities. There's no description of responsibilities for either their work experience or a summary in general. Okay, they keep their experience details consistent. So they changed essentially the format throughout their work experience. And so it's not consistent. So it's kind of hard to find what we're looking for. Okay, here's another resume. Okay, so some resume strengths on this particular one. Okay, simple, readable language. Sometimes we like to get really fancy in the language that we use within our resume. And at the end of the day, sometimes just using simple, readable language adds a strength because, again, it's easy to find and it's easy to look at that and to be able to pull the information that we need in that quick amount of time that we're looking for, or as the HR people are. Okay, some opportunities on here. Okay. Only use a photo when appropriate and keep that photo professional. Okay. Very few times a photo is going to be appropriate here in the United States. I know in other countries it is required to have a photo on your resume. And so it could be different depending on what your location is. I know we get people on these webinars that are all across the world. So I can't give a blanket statement, but use a photo only when appropriate and use an appropriate professional headshot. Okay. Next, remove typos. Make sure that you read over your resume several times. You're putting in your best foot forward in a professional setting. You want to make sure that you show them a professional side of you, and checking for those typos is going to be one of the number one mistakes you'll see coming through on resumes. Okay, avoid distracting fonts and colors. This particular one is it has multiple different fonts. Some of them are hard to read, as well as those colors. If you're seeing multiple resumes as an HR and you have lots of different colors coming in, again, it goes back to the eyes and the head and think about seeing 100 different resumes with different colors and different fonts, and think of the headache that you would have at the end of the day. Think of the person that's going to have to read that resume, and think of them reading 100 of them, and keep it within the proper size and scope. Okay, here's another one. Okay, so some resume strengths on this one. They used appropriate font. The font that they used is easy to read. So as you're reading through it, you can pull out those different keywords just because the font is easy to read. However, some opportunities. You need to allow the white space. We talked about this on the first resume. This resume, imagine having, again, 100 resumes coming through and having all of these words to go through and having no white space. Think of how it would hurt your eyes and the headache you would have by the end of the day trying to pick out the individual words that we're looking at and thinking you only have 6 to 10 seconds to go through and gather that. It'd be very, very difficult. So allowing that white space so that they're able to pull that information is going to be important. Remove irrelevant information. This particular Jason in this example has put every single experience they've ever had. Education, work, everything he could pull out has put this in this resume. I'm going to guess that this is a stock resume that he uses for everything. And so in his mind, he put everything he has ever experienced, everything he has ever done, thinking that it'd be relevant for everything. And so it has made it very, very difficult. And he's given a lot of information that is really kind of irrelevant. Okay. Remove unnecessary links and details. It's not, again, it's irrelevant for the position, is not really needed in these cases. Okay. Eliminate crowded text. We have a lot of crowded text. Again, it kind of, even though we used a really great font, it's all crowded. So then we go in and we try to pick out those keywords that we're looking for to see if they're a qualified candidate for the position. It makes it very difficult. So you want to make sure that you have that spacing so that we can gather the wording. They're the words that we're looking for easily. Okay, here's another one. Okay, so some strengths we have on here. They have a detailed summary. I really like this summary because they were very detailed in what they came from, their background. They use numbers and they are very specific. It's really incredible. You don't see that very often. Okay, specific examples with measurable details. Again, going back to using those numbers, 37,000 per company. That's a very specific number. Having those numbers show the impact that a person can have on sales or on a specific area, or they managed a certain number of people. They're very specific in what they put in this resume. Now, some opportunities this particular resume has, they didn't choose a clear, legible font. If they had made an adjustment in their font so that it was clear and easy to read, it would have had a massive impact so that we're not squinting our eyes and trying to pull out that information, even though it's really great information that they chose to put in here. Okay, combining positions from the same company. A lot of times that we will separate those positions out thinking that we need to, but ultimately we can combine the same position or the same company together into one and to have a little more space, but also be able to bulk up that section. Okay, here's another one. Okay, so we talked about photos before. However, again, sometimes that they are appropriate, sometimes they're required. And so when it is required, use a professional photo. In this particular case, he used a very professional headshot. It's a great opportunity there. Okay. It has a clean layout with white space. It's really great. We're able to pick out the information that we need and our eyes don't get tired. Okay, some opportunities that we see. Always proofread the information that you put on your resume before sending it out. Again, it's your first foot forward in general, it's your first foot forward. And so it's the first impression somebody's going to have on you. And if it's not proofread and you have some mistakes, it's not always the best impression to leave with somebody is the first impression. Okay, some common mistakes that we see with resumes. There's sparse or not enough information. We saw that with one of our resumes. They listed the job work, but not the details behind what they did. They have crowded or hard to understand, distracting fonts, and then many typos. So crowded and hard to understand, way too much information. Overall, it was a good resume, but it was just so much information. Taking that irrelevant information out would have had a massive impact and left that white space needed so that we could really enjoy the information that they left. Okay, distracting fonts. Again, the colors and the multiple different fonts on here is very distracting, and it took away from the important information that he put on this resume. And then last but not least, the typos. Lots of typos within this resume, even though it had some good information and the details of the numbers, it had lots and lots of typos. Okay, moving on. Okay, so 4 strategies to improve your resumes. There are 4 strategies, and these are the 4 strategies. Choose a professional format. Highlight the skills and accomplishments, cite specific examples with measurable details, and tailor your resume to the job description. We've talked about all 4 of those as we went through those resumes that we just went through as primary examples. So first, we're going to talk about choosing a professional format. Now, there's a traditional format that you'll see probably the majority of your resumes come through. But more and more, we're seeing a more creative format for resumes because we have a lot of people moving into those digital creative environment. And depending on what industry you're going into and what industry that you're applying for, a creative format might be more impactful than a traditional. If you don't know what is best for a job that you're applying for, talk to somebody that's already in that industry and find out. It might be a creative one, but it also might be a traditional one. There's some that are very, very obviously like a business and things like that type of a job, a sales job is more traditional. However, like a digital graphic design, web designer, a more creative one might be because it's on a more creative side. So talk to people either that work within that company or work within that industry and kind of see what their take on that is as you're trying to decide what is best for the position you're applying for. Okay, traits of a professional resume, lots of white space and wide margin. Again, going back to the eyes and having to read through so many of those. Okay, simple, readable language, making sure that it's quick to read, quick to pull out that information that they need within 6 to 10 seconds. We have clear headings and then appropriate fonts. We want to make sure that they're able to read it easily and gather that information again. Okay, so when we are making a resume, we want to go into our Google Drive, go to google.com and sign into our Google account, go to the waffle and get into our Google Drive. From there, you want to go to the new button, go to Docs, and then we're going to select from format. The reason why you would want to do from format, Google Docs has multiple formats available that have been structured and built for resumes, and they have had designers and researchers go out and do the hard work essentially for us to create these formats that will work for different personalities, different jobs, different industries, so that we don't have to do that for it. It's already been done. There's the proper amount of white space and there's the proper amount of sectioning and things like that. They are all adjustable. You can go in and make adjustments and format changes, but it makes a great opportunity for you and you don't have to do the hard work. Okay, so number 2, highlight your skills and accomplishments. This is another important one. Include relevant recent work experience. Okay, exclude previous jobs that are not relevant to the one that you were applying for right now. and include volunteer work and part-time jobs to showcase your qualifications. A lot of times we leave off our volunteer work, but they can really have a powerful impact on the quality of our resume. So if you are like me, and when I was just starting out into the work experience, I didn't have a lot of really incredible professional jobs. I was in the restaurant industry. I started out, I was Wendy. I started out at Wendy's. My family called me the Wendy's queen. Wendy's took me through college. I can't complain. I actually really loved working there. But I didn't have like this really massively impressive job background. So what I had to do is I had to take what I had worked, my babysitting jobs, Wendy's, cashiering, things like that, volunteer work. I was in 4-H. I was one of those, right? And I was able to take that information and move it into a professional job. So I have a challenge for you. Let's take about 20 seconds. These are the jobs that this particular person, we're going to help them develop their resume. So these are the jobs this particular person has. We're going to take these jobs and put them within the sales representative. They've been wait staff. They have been a cashier. They've had volunteer work. They've been a bank teller. They've done babysitting jobs. And then they've been a freelance blogger. Now take a couple of about 30 seconds and think about how we can take those jobs and think about our sales representative positions and how can those jobs transfer over into a sales representative position. Okay, so here's some examples. So as a wait staff position, you're taking orders, you're going to identify opportunities for upselling. And so that would fall into that sales category. As a cashier, you're engaging customers and offering exceptional customer service. So it falls into that category. Under your volunteer work, we're raising funds from area businesses. Again, that goes back into the sales area that we are talking about within our job description. As a bank teller, you are building product expertise. You have to know all of the products of the bank in order to be able to effectively serve those customers. As a babysitting job, it shows responsibility if someone's really willing to leave you with their child. And then freelance blogger, negotiating rates with publications to make sure that you get paid what you deserve for your writings. And so utilizing those positions, we're able to actually write out an entire resume that fits all the needed job requirements for the position that we're looking for. Okay, so digital documents. When you basically use a digital document to keep track of a running list of your work experience. I talk all the time about having detail in your resume, have the numbers. So if you are a manager right now, or if you are in a certain position, make sure that you're documenting what you have going on. For example, if you made your sales goals for this quarter, document that. If you exceeded your sales goal, document that, but also document it with specific numbers. There's nothing worse than going back and having to do a resume and figuring out what those specific numbers are. For example, if you were to ask me to go back and tell you how we met our goals and our increases from Wendy's 30 years ago, I'm aging myself now, I couldn't tell you. I know I worked there. I know we hit incredible sales goals because we had parties. We really enjoyed staff, but I can't give you any specific numbers. Now, if I would have been keeping a list like this, it would have been a really, really great tool and asset when I was moving on to other jobs and working within other finer dining type establishments, because I did work within the restaurant industry for years after. So having that list of stuff, if you manage a certain number of people, write that down for an X amount of years or an X amount of time, and you can update your numbers. So if you've done it for 90 days, put it in for 90 days, and then update it to 6 months, and then update it to a year, whatever that looks like for your particular position. But you're gonna wanna keep track of that. That way you can update your resumes, okay? Cite specific example with measurable details, okay? Be very specific on the projects that you're working on. improvements you made, processes you developed, those systems that you put into place, the goals that you attained, and then your impact in numbers and the awards and recognitions. These are things that all that you want to put within that resume. Again, tracking it is going to be important so that you have those numbers and you can match up your resume. Make sure that you have those things. So let's review another opportunity here. So this is kind of a general opportunity when you think about this description. So we have a team lead in a big box store for 2 years, and they've just been very basic. They managed team members, they trained new ones coming in, they ran meetings effectively, and they sold more than target. Very basic. How can we essentially make this more effective for our current position that we're hiring for? So if we were to write this out so that it's more effective, we can say they managed a team of 8 for new hires for 15 years, Okay. They trained 15 new employees for 2 years. They developed an onboarding program that documented the process of all employees to follow. So that's, again, talking about a program that they created. They have specific numbers and then talked about a program that they created and implemented. Okay, we ran weekly meetings for 20 people. Again, going back to numbers and times. Okay, relayed sales targets from the director and assigned tasks to team members. Again, going back to the organization, delegation, and that falls a little bit into the negotiation. Okay, effective or exceeded individual goals, targets by 20%. Again, numbers, selling 20 widgets over the company goal set of 100. Again, we're looking at specific numbers. We're getting down to those details that are so important. By doing that, we've made this particular one job description so effective for our sales position. We almost hit every single target that we're looking for within our job description. Okay, so let's do another one. A lot of people don't know how to take the volunteer work that they do for wherever they're volunteering. In this particular case, it's a homeless shelter, and translate that into a job description so that it's effective. So there's 2 things on here that they put. They served meals for shelter residents, and then they organized a holiday event. Very simple, not a lot of description, but I'm going to guess that they did a lot more, right? So let's talk about that. Okay, so how many meals did they serve? They served 200 meals every week for 6 months. Writing that out is impactful. That shows a lot of organization, a stamina, and they did it for 6 months. 200 meals every week for 6 months is a lot of work. Okay, going back to that holiday party, putting on a holiday party. If anybody's organized a holiday party, you know that that is something of a feat. Also, it is kind of costly, and figuring out how to do that within a homeless shelter that doesn't always have a lot of funds and isn't always able to do it in the way that they'd like. It looks like in this particular case, they actually had quite a considerable impact on that. So on this one, we actually, when we write out the description, it looks something more like this. They obtained $2,000 from local businesses. That's pretty impressive. And by taking that and adding that to that job description, it shows that she has not only negotiation skills, but she's also able to talk to local businesses and isn't afraid to do that. And in a sales rep position, that's really important, right? Okay, and then prepared over 200 pounds of fresh food donations. Now, I wish they would have said whether they got them donated or not, or how they got them donated, if she negotiated those donations. I'm going to assume that that probably is an assumption. I would have added that, but at the same time, it shows that a massive impact that she has had. So adding those details are really, really important. Don't necessarily keep it short and sweet. You want to have the numbers, add those numbers into it. Okay, last but not least, tailor your resume to the job description. Okay, most successful when your resume matches the language of the job description. Don't just send a standard resume out to every single job. You're going to want to make adjustments within your job description. So how do you make adjustments within your resume to match the job description? Well, you want to pay attention to the action verbs that the business has used within the job description. So this is our job description that we've been talking about this entire time. There are several action words that are very important to this company. And if you go through and you read it and you can identify those action words, you'll be very, very successful in recreating and developing your resume to match the job description. So these are the action words: manage, identifying, locating, expanding, designing, delivering, presiding, building, maintaining, meet, and exceed. Those are the action words that they are looking for. So by taking those action words and putting them within your descriptions, your job descriptions, what you accomplished, your summary, if you take those and add those within your resume, you will be much more impactful. So by review, choosing the appropriate format for the industry and the job that you are applying for your resume. Okay, number 2 is highlighting your skills and accomplishments. Include relevant current experience that matches that job. Cite specific examples and measurable details. Again, go back and get those numbers. They're so important. And if you have not tracked those and don't know them, start today by tracking them. And then tailor your resume for the job description. Go through and read the job description and get those action words that the company has put in there. That's what's important to that company. And so by utilizing those, you'll be much more effective within your resume. And then last but not least, start keeping a list. This is a list that we talked about before. This is where you can keep those numbers so you don't have to go back and try and recreate those when you're looking for another job, or when you need to up your resume for a promotion or something like that. You have all that information available to you at your fingertips. Okay, a job tracker. You want to keep this. I teach you how to do this in the class that is using Google for your job search. I believe it's either the next class or the one following that. It's coming up soon. But I teach you how to create this. This is an important aspect when you're searching for jobs. You want to know what position, what company, where you found it. Also, there's very specific things that you're going to want to know about the different jobs that you're applying for, so that you're able to compare apples to apples. There's some things that might be really important to you. That might be salary, but it also might be benefits. It might be a specific location, or it might be the ability to work from home. Most people are, I can't say most people, but a lot of people would take a salary cut if they could work remotely and have that benefit to be able to work from home. So those are the kind of things that you're going to want to track within your job search plan tracker, so that you're able to compare apples to apples and be able to do that. The other really cool things by using Google Docs and Drive, you can actually add the specific link for the resume that you sent to that company on one of the lines within your tracker, so that before your interview, you can go in and you can look at the exact information that you sent that company and know exactly what they're talking about. That way, because you're going to be adjusting your resume for every job you send out, because we talked about that. So you know exactly the information that's gone out. You don't have to question or wonder. You have all the information right in front of you, which is incredible. Okay. Creating a portfolio. This can be critically important if you are like a web designer or a digital designer, anything like that. Creating an online portfolio can have a massive impact for your ability to show your work and show what you were able to accomplish. You can do this at slides.google.com, and to be able to send that directly over to them, and they can review your work and the impact that you've had. is really, really cool. And you can actually do this in multiple industries. What it's most known for, though, is the more creative digital design type stuff, but you can do this across multiple industries. I did it I was a chef for 18 years, so I did it in my culinary world. I had pictures and recipes and all kinds of stuff within mine. So figure out a way how to do that within your industry, and it's an added benefit for those that are looking to hire you. Okay, so your next steps: visit google.com or docs.google.com to review possible resume templates. Look through those and see what best speaks to you and your personality, but also what industries that you want to work in, and make sure that you utilize that as well. Choose one that suits your industry, your experience, and your style. Examine your current resume and find places to include specific examples with measurable details. Create and run a list of experiences that you can tailor to your job resume. Again, you want to adjust it to the job. Current experiences that are tailored to that job is important. Okay, and explore the workshops. You can explore workshops, more job searcher trainer type workshops at g.co/Grow On Air. Okay, there are additional workshops on google.com/grow for teachers and students, local businesses, for job searchers, and for developers. You can go and explore that area, and there's a lot of really valuable information. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. Let me go ahead and stop sharing this, and let's pull up the questions. You can go ahead and put your questions in the comment box, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up social media so that we can answer any questions that we have over there as well. So go ahead and start sending those through if you have any. And I'm losing my voice. Monday morning is my bad voice morning or something. I don't know. Okay. Are there any questions this morning? It doesn't look like we have any on social medias. Okay. I don't think we've got any questions this morning. I really appreciate everybody joining us and working with me with my different setup for today. Every once in a while that happens because of conference or personal need, and so I appreciate everybody working with us. Our next week's, let me look up next week's title real quick so that everybody knows. Maybe the internet's just a little bit slower here than at the school. So next week's title is Power Your Job Search with Google Tools. And that's the one I kind of mentioned before. That's the one where we actually teach you how to create that job searcher tracker. And we go into some really cool details on how to use Google search and Google tools to find jobs and to track those. So we go into that next level. So super excited for that. I appreciate everybody for joining us today. We'll see you next week when I will be back into my regular setting. And you guys have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.